NBA Finals, NFL training camp, and Olympics. This intro is way too long in itself. I'm ready to talk some sports on this jam-packed show. My name is Stephen Rabinowitz.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
And I'm Anthony Strait. Wanted to tell you to release the Kragan, baby. Only about several weeks
and already, season. And already he had more words than an entire open. Thanks for ruining it, Anthony. Welcome to our On the Sports Slides NFL training camp, Olympics, NBA Finals recap edition, all that stuff. You heard that description seconds ago. We've got a lot to talk about on this Thursday. Isn't July supposed to be quiet, guys? That changes this year, and we're not even technically in the Olympic year, although it's 2020 to them.
And we still have the NBA draft to go.
I know. But first, for one final time, let's visit the Deer Super Spreader District. The Milwaukee Bucks, a team who love to live on the edge many times this postseason. They're the first team to win a Larry O'Brien trophy after multiple 2-0 series deficits. They just won the NBA title after a Game 6 victory 48 hours ago. Giannis Antetokounmpo was Superman in this series, close to a mortal lock for series MVP if there ever was one. Final thoughts, gentlemen, starting with Anthony, on the first title in half a century for Milwaukee.
Well, I'll tell you what, a month ago, I was kind of ranting and raving about how Milwaukee looked nothing to title contender whatsoever. Because you think about this, there's been plenty of points during this postseason run, even in the regular season, where Milwaukee just looked average. They didn't look like a team that we would think would be hosting the Larry O'Brien trophy, at this point. But you know what? I got to give them credit. They were a resilient team. You think about a year ago, they were the team that protested and actually sat out a playoff game after another police shooting. They bowed out in 5 games in the bubble to the Miami Heat. They, took a lot of flack for it. Mike Budenholzer came into the season pretty much on the hot seat. They were able to re-sign Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is probably the biggest win by far up until this point. They made the trade for Drew Holiday. And the Milwaukee Bucks, for what it's worth, they were at the top of the conference, but they were the 3 team. They just got overshadowed by obviously the Brooklyn Nets, and the 76ers having a tremendous regular season, and they were just overshadowed. They went through Miami in 4 games, kind of avenging that bubble loss. But when they fell behind 0-2 to the Nets, and even fell behind 3-2 after Kevin Durant had a game 5 for the Asians, Milwaukee could have easily kind of bowed out. I mean, they looked like they were ready to basically, make the coaching change. We were actually talking about Milwaukee possibly making a coaching change had they lost early in the playoffs. But, Drew Holiday, game winner that kept them from going down 3-0 in that series. And then they were Kevin Durant size, half a shoe size away from losing Game 7. But they were able to win Game 7 in a row. They thought they lost Antetokounmpo in the play throughout the postseason with that scary hyperextension of the knee.
Yep.
They were able to win Game 5. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Yes, I know that the rabbi have no disdain for Bobby Portis nowadays. But you know what? Gotta give credit to him. He was a high energy guy that came off the bench, stepped up big time, and also Kubo's absence in those 2 games. They were able to win Game 6 on the road in Atlanta. Think about this. Up into the finals, all 3 of the clinching wins were on the road. Game 6 of the finals is really the only time this postseason they were able to clinch at home. So I got to give the Milwaukee Bucks a lot of credit. Giannis Antetokounmpo, a Game 6 for just a memorable Game 6. He was dominant. They had no answer for him. I mean, I thought one of the biggest mismatches in this series was the fact that when Giannis was switched to center, DeAndre Ayton was guarding him, and that was just a complete mismatch. He doesn't have the speed to match with Giannis, and he doesn't have the upper body strength, as we saw. Giannis has literally gone Super Saiyan since he came into the league and how he's bulked up. But I mean, like I said, I tip my hat to them. They were just they were definitely not the sexiest team picked to win a championship. But you know what? No, they are. And you know what? Dill Country looked like Coachella when you see all them people celebrating the other night.
It's a bad American knockoff of Jurassic Park from Toronto a few years ago.
Yep.
They set the trend in Milwaukee, jealous that they beat them in the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals. Try to do a decent job at it, and then they double the size for their clinching game. It makes no sense. Whatever. Let's go, Jay.
Yikes.
Go ahead, Jay.
Guys, on our last show, when we did our first look at the NBA Finals, the player I looked at in my stat watch for Milwaukee was forward Chris Middleton. And I said that for the Bucks to win their first title since the Big O and Lou Alcindor back in 71, they'd need the all-star level bucket getter that Middleton is when he's got his A game going. After the first two games of the finals, we really didn't see that player. Look at, his numbers through the first two games: 20 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. His shooting line was 405, 333 from downtown, 0 from the stripe, as he did not get to the line, and the Bucks lost both games. Over the final 4 games of this, all of which the Bucks won en route to this title, Middleton was the player we expected and we needed him to be, or at least the Bucks needed him to be. 26 points a game, 6.3 rebounds, 5 assists. His shooting line was 47% from the floor, 37% from 3, 88.9% from the stripe. Bucks won all 4 games. It was around his regular season numbers in game 3, 18 points, 6 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 7 from deep, 3 of 3 from the line, 7 boards, 6 dimes. But he really shined in games 4 and 5, leading the Bucks with 40 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, and 2 steals in game 4, and 29.7 rebounds and 5 assists in game 5. In the game 5 win, is all 3 of the Bucks' big 3 had at least 27 points in that game. Back to his regular season average was 17 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists in the closeout win. But that was the Giannis show, so he didn't need to be that big for the Bucks to take the series. But as he's done throughout the series, Middleton made key buckets, knocked down free throws that iced the game for Milwaukee, and which is what you're looking for from this guy. Yeah, I agree with you, Anthony. Giannis is the Finals MVP far and away, and deservedly so. But Middleton's play was definitely key to winning the title for Milwaukee, and he deserves plenty of accolades. Giannis himself has said that his longtime teammate, no one he'd rather have by his side or even taken over when he's got his gay game going, other than than Middleton. This series bore it out. This is the Chris Middleton the Bucks have been looking forward to having when the playoffs and the series and a title and everything like that is on the line. Middleton had his game when they needed him to have his game.
Well, Giannis did say after the game he wants to trade immediately, jokingly to the press. Giannis is, by the way, the guy who really should be the face of the NBA, and he played phenomenal in this series. You don't remember that he hyperextended his knee in that game 4 loss against the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. He played Superman. Just remember, 50 years ago, Lou Alcindor, we're talking Lou Alcindor, not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This is so old that it's still Lou Alcindor, got the MVP Finals honors by going 27 points and 18.5 rebounds. Here's Giannis's numbers for the Finals. 35.2 points, 3 40-point games, 13.2 rebounds, 5 assists per game, shot 62%. He finally played as much of a 5 as he should be playing. He played literally the shot charts that you see is just green around the basket. And that's exactly what Giannis should have done. They recognized a weakness in the Suns game. Ayton is just not a good matchup for Giannis. Ayton got into foul trouble twice in this series. Ayton almost never gets into foul trouble this entire season or this entire playoffs. And what you saw in that game 6, 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks, 2 assists, and the most important stat of all, 17 of 19 free throws for a career 50 to 60% shooter to basically, in the most pressure-filled game of his life, basically be Rick Barry from the foul line is ridiculous. I don't know if Giannis has earned the title of best player in the NBA, but he earned the best title of best player this postseason. He is a likable guy. He carried this team at game 6. You needed every single one of those 50 points. You needed every single effort from Giannis. And what I like to see is the fact that the guy who was, I think, 180 pounds in 2013.
Pretty much.
One most improved player, got his team to the playoffs, became a 1 seed, and then finally going from 2020 Giannis, who was just being guarded by a wall and had nothing to do against Miami all the time, to doing what he did in this finals is outstanding. Even down 0-2, you saw Milwaukee showed fight, and then Giannis said, boys, put me on your back, put everyone on my back, and I'm going to win you a finals. And that's exactly what he did. I have to give Giannis credit. This is the Giannis series, and this is a Giannis legacy series.
Well,
like, you can't call him a choker anymore.
No, you can't. And I agree with you 100%. But, I think we need to give, Anthony brought it up earlier. We were ragging on Mike Budenholzer during the Nets series, and we jumped on that bandwagon that wanted to run him out of Milwaukee on a rail. But I got to give the guy credit. He made adjustments. He got out of his own way. Did not put a chokehold on his philosophies. Changed up his defensive coverages as the matchups warranted. He changed. One thing that we really hated last year was the fact that he almost refused to give his best players big minutes when in order to get wins. He refused to do that last year in the playoffs, and it bit them in the ass. He let Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, he let them play 40 minutes if that's what the game required in order for them to get a win. So, I got to give that guy credit, for recognizing that he needed to make some changes that, that maybe last year he wouldn't have. So you got to give credit to where credit is due for a head coach who not only, from series to series and game to game, made the changes and made the adjustments that needed to be made in order to put his team in best position to win a title.
By the way, the keep it simple, stupid method is what worked for Budenholzer this series. Feed Giannis the ball and let everything develop around him. And that's exactly what happened.
It was the Chick-fil-A, I'm telling you. The Chick-fil-A.
I was going to mention the 50 bitty Chick-fil-A is happening.
How awesome is that?
That's awesome.
How awesome is that? I mean, that's the type of thing you're used to seeing hockey players do with the Stanley Cup. You don't see NBA players do that. And so that's cool. I love that. That was awesome.
And by the way, it now becomes the best.
Yeah, before we move on though, I gotta give a round of applause to Monty Williams, a class act all the way.
Yes.
Went to congratulate the Bucks in the locker room.
Yep.
Just a great job this season, class act. I don't know, there isn't enough good things I can say about him.
Hopefully he'll be back.
And Rabbi, as you said to us, that we didn't have a lot of high expectations coming into this series, but this series was good. A lot more.
The series was interesting. Once we got to the final 4 games with those Bucks wins, we got some interesting games. There was a feeling out process, but congrats to the Bucks. You were definitely not an asterisk. You earned this title, and your hard work got you to this point. Let's move on. So we've had our next guest on this NFL training camp show for years, and most of our other NFL shows. So, why would this be any different?
Of course.
We welcome back a very good writer, writes for Last Word on Sports, does many good columns. He knows all things Giants. He's going to insult Sam Darnold, even though he's actually not here in New York anymore. Welcome back, Joe Tufaro, to the show. Good evening, Joe.
How are you, Joseph?
Hey, how are you guys? What's going on?
Good to see you, man.
All right. Hey, can you believe we're about to go back to training camp? The Steelers and Cowboys are already there, and very, very soon everybody else will be. I believe they're back on Tuesday.
Yes. When all the veterans show up. Of course, the injured players and the rookies are already in Giants camp. But everybody gets there Tuesday.
And not a lot of other people who are well paid who don't need that training camp.
That's right.
Let's go on to the Giants. The Giants were just a couple of bad breaks and a Philadelphia Eagles effort away from a playoff appearance in 2020. But let's face it, guys, 6-10 shouldn't get you the playoffs anyway. Still don't cut it. Nope. Time to get back to business for the G-Men. As we told you, next week starts training camp. So we've got questions. Joe, does he have the answers? He better. We put him on the show. All right, Jay, start off the firing line.
All right. So my burning question, obviously, as it usually does when we talk football, is about quarterback. So Daniel Jones. And this year, the offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett, we all know this is a critical season for Daniel Jones in determining if he's the long-term answer as the Giants starter quarterback. But it's also a very critical season for offensive coordinator Jason Garrett. We know the reasons Giants are high on Jones. Seeing him as Eli Manning 2.0, checked every box. Good football IQ, good character, good work ethic, respected by his teammates. He's athletic, could make all the throws, processes information well at the level required to play quarterback in the NFL. But so far, and we've discussed this ad nauseum on the show, there's been as many ups as there have been downs. He's got more turnovers, 39, than touchdown passes, 35. Giants are 8-18 in his starts. Big games with big throws. Awful games with horrible throws. We talked about, this on the Giants postmortem back in January. Some improvement, better completion percentage, less turnovers than the previous year, improved decision-making, coupled with improved ball security, result of better understanding of coverages, better pre- and post-snap reads, better anticipation and throws, learn to recognize that sometimes there's no play to be made and, don't make a stupid play, don't give the ball away. The hope is this is going to carry over to this season where you've got, some new additions at the skill player positions along with, returning players. You got the anticipation of improved offensive line play. Is that going to allow Jones to thrive? So far, he and new wide receiver Kenny Golladay, they were developing some chemistry during June minicamp, which you like to see. Look, we all know the Giants front office is all in on Jones. Zero doubts he's going to become a top player in the league. So there's going to be a lot of burden on Jason Garrett to demonstrate he can build an offense around Jones that will be successful, giving him a chance to make some of the highlight reel plays we've seen him make with less weapons than he's going to have this season. One of the things that Garrett needs to do, in my opinion, and we talked about this in January, is increase the use of pre-snap motion to stress defenses. Here's the stat I threw out. Giants are 26th in the league in motion, 37%, 8% at the snap, 22nd in the league. Compare that to the Ravens, 66% motion, pre-snaps, second in the NFL. This is something the Giants offense can control, so you would think Garrett will utilize it. Here's the thing that I'm going to be looking at. Jones thrived in David Cutcliffe's West Coast type offense at Duke, where he was a rhythm passer, threw the ball with accuracy and touch. Garrett is from the Norv Turner school of offense, which was his system from his days with Troy Aikman and Turner in Dallas. That system has some West Coast elements.
Every time you mention Norv Turner, I get bored.
I know
that's all right. That's perfectly fine.
But Turner's scheme was more about working the ball down the field as opposed to going for chunk plays in the passing game. The question for me is, will Garrett be adaptable? Can he stray from his roots and develop an offense around Jones that plays to his strengths and uses the improved level of skill players that are going to be around Jones this season, like Golladay, first-round pick wide receiver Kadarius Toney, and the return of a healthy Saquon Barkley at running back. Joe, with all that as the setup, what are you looking for from Jones and Garrett during camp and the preseason games?
Does he have anything else to answer at this point?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
It wasn't much of a question, but I think the biggest thing, Jay, is the nice thing about coming back this year for Daniel Jones is he's got the same guy as his coordinator. And that's the first time that's going to happen. So he's not walking into a new coach. He's not walking into a new coordinator. He's not walking into a room where guys are missing. Everything that Joe Judge has put together on this team is there. It's going to be there a long time. He's already put his stamp on this team as being a tough, gritty team. He's brought in 2 more consultants for the offensive line to help them work. They brought in Kyle Rudolph to teach the tight ends how to block and to how to hold on to the ball when it's thrown to them. So I think that's all going to be positive stuff. And I think, as you guys know, you walk into training camp already knowing the language that you're getting thrown at. What you're looking at on the play sheet is not translating from something else. Say, oh, we used to call it this. Now I got to call it this. He's got all that already. So that whole part, and again, all that was done, if you remember, back to the nightmare of last year, everything was done on Zoom. Everything was done different ways. And there wasn't a lot of that, interaction as you're walking past each other in a hallway or on the field and say, hey, I know we're supposed to do this, but what happens here, or what's that call, or whatever. So I think having a full training camp with everybody there and participating and and having practices the way Joe Judge has practices as a continuous thing and what they're used to now, and adding to that, I think that's going to give Daniel the chance to thrive in that system because he knows the system. What I look from Jason Garrett, look, you're going to have to learn to throw screen passes in this league. You're going to, especially if you're going to have a guy like Kadarius Toney, you're going to need a lot of guys. You don't go out and get Tyreek Hill 2.0 and not use them. So hopefully, I know it'll be a little bit more precise than Tyreek Hill. It's not run down the field all over the place and I'll run around back here and see if I see, I'll throw you the ball. He's not going to turn into Mahomes all of a sudden, but I think having everybody on the same page and having some of these guys that have some more speed, some more height, some more length, bringing in a veteran like Galladay to help with in the room, you got to remember, Golden Tate wasn't his choice, wasn't Joe Judge's choice, and that fell apart pretty early in the year. So now he's got guys in the room that want to be in the room and can work with it. And again, as far as Garrett goes, hey, he's going to have to show us a lot too, Jay. I agree with you that I don't think there's many Giant fans that wanted him here to begin with. So he's going to take that brunt of things all the time. I don't like the fact when you, who I know knows the game better than most people, you say, oh, Jones is 8-18 since he didn't lose all those games. The defense lost a good chunk of those in the beginning of his first year. They lost about 6 give-up games at the end where they let teams walk down the field and win games. So I think more of the pressure goes on Garrett than goes on Daniel Jones. The media wants to call Daniel Jones, a coach killer and all this garbage because they have nothing to write about all offseason, but it's Garrett at this point, and he has to show that he's taken that step back from being a head coach and can handle being an offense coordinator with a boss. And Joe Judge proved that last year by firing his offensive line coach that he brought with him from Dallas to say, hey, I'm in charge. We're doing it my way. And again, they've had an entire offseason to talk and create and do what they had to do together. So we'll see how that worked out.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, though, before we get to Anthony's question, which will lead right into it, Garrett hasn't had these type of toys to play with,
right.
And it helps out a lot. I know Kadarius Toney is starting out on the COVID-19 list as of today, so that won't help going into training camp. But Anthony, let's talk about that for a very quick second and the whole new Giants and old Giants.
Yeah, well, obviously Jay hit on it in his question. The Giants made some additions in the offseason. Kenny Galladay is one. Kadarius Toney is another, but also Kyle Rudolph is another free agent signing at the Giants, and they're also going to get back Saquon Barkley. My question is basically, what can these guys add to an offense that did struggle last season, and what we be looking for out of these key additions that wasn't on the field last year for the Giants, but will be this time around. What can they add to the Giants just as from an overall standpoint?
Yeah, I have and you guys know this about me, I'm not big on rookies because I'll say right now, Kadarius Toney will probably be hurt for 3 or 4 games. He'll probably fumble once or twice early on in the season because you're not faster than 90% of the guys anymore on defense. You're faster than 9% of the guys on defense, and they hit you from different spots and they're a lot bigger. So I'm not big on him as much. I like the idea of adding Galladay. I like the idea of adding a couple other guys. They added Ross. They added a couple of other wide receivers. Benjamin, who was a former number 1. So I think they're trying to bring in a lot of talented guys. And we all know you got to play special teams on the Giants to make the team. So that's going to be part of their roster. But they brought in athletes, Anthony. They brought in big guys. They brought in guys who have been in the league. Kyle Rudolph signing was fantastic. A lot of people were like, you're either going to live and die with Ingram, or you're going to trade him, or you're going to, not pick up his option or whatever. And they said, no, we still think he has some talent. We still think he can do the job, but let's bring in a guy who's been doing it for 8 years. And wants to be here and can show you how this is done, how to be a professional. If you think back and think of the change they made after Pat Shurmur, right? So you got destroyed. The team got destroyed by McAdoo. You bring in Pat Shurmur as the interim guy to kind of pick up some of the pieces and get an adult in the room, as they said at the time.
I'm sorry, Pat Shurmur also makes me go to sleep. It's in that same Norm Turner vein of talking.
But what happened during that time is there were no leaders on the team, and there's a lot of guys that came and went. The Golden Tates, the different guys like that. There was no, even Saquon Barkley. If you remember the first year's year, they went out and signed the running back from Carolina, and everyone's like, "What are you doing that for? He's washed up." And go, no, you need somebody who knows how to play NFL football to teach the guy that's walking in the door. Ingram never had a tight end in the room that had ever played in the NFL. So this is what they're doing now. They're bringing in guys who are veterans, who know how to play, who are professionals. Again, you want guys who want to fight to be the first ones there in the morning and the last ones to leave. You don't want to be wondering if guys are working or if they're doing anything. So I like all the additions. We kind of say Galladay and Rudolph and Tony, but they brought in, if you guys remember the offseason, they signed a bunch of free agents on both sides of the ball. They did a wonderful job. They had a really good draft, pass rushers and wide receivers and running backs and all kinds of different positions. So they're bringing the depth back to this team. They're giving Joe Judge players to play with. And what did we find out about Joe Judge last year? If you're one of 53, you're playing. Mm-hmm. You're not sitting on the end of the bench going, "Oh, I'm the number 3 tight end. I guess I'm never getting in." No, you're playing, and you may be playing at a very important time in the game. So everyone's going to have to show how good they are, and it's that constant competition amongst everybody that's on that roster. There's none of this, "Oh, Galladay signed a big contract, so I might as well go sit down because I'm number 6. You're going to play. And you get hurt in this league. We do this every year, and every other show like this does this every year. Guys don't play 18 games. Guys don't play 18 weeks, whatever it is, 17 games. It just doesn't happen. And they're not robots. They don't just do what's on the back of their card. Using a baseball reference, these guys, you have to try to figure out a way to stay healthy at the position, not necessarily that person. You need 3 centers. You need left tackles, right tackles, but you need guys that can switch and play both sides, which they have. And that was what was so good about Joe Judge last year, of having these guys learn different positions during the season and having them get that experience.
Yeah, and one of the things I did say Joe Judge did a great job of is the fact that because guys were playing and positions were being rotated, and even the second and the third straight guys were playing, that morale, it keeps the morale up in the locker room because guys are involved. Guys know they have a place on the team, whether they're the big star or the third guy coming off the bench as a tight end or as a defensive lineman. I think I always thought that when everyone's involved, that does boost team morale because everyone feel like they're part of something. I think that was one of the biggest things Joe Judge was able to establish.
And I think, and Anthony, you're a Mets fan like me. It kind of happened to them this year, and I don't know if Louis was going to do this on his own, but with so many guys getting hurt early in the year, they had all these other guys get involved and play not just once a week. They had to go in and show that they could play for weeks at a time. And now that the regulars come back, now you got a full team of guys that are totally committed. Everybody's in. You could put anybody in at any time. When you see pinch hitters walk up there, nobody cares who it is anymore. Nobody cares. They go, "Oh, you got to take the third baseman out because we have to switch out the pitcher." Fine, put in the next guy because they can all play because they've all been involved. They've all showed that they can play. They're all at that level. And so, it's a team thing. It's a team building thing. And you're right, Anthony. It brings everybody, gets everybody involved, makes them feel like they're part of the team and that they're contributing, on a continuing basis.
Well, the good news is, for my question, you don't have to worry about the stats in the back of the cards because defensive players almost never get cards. They just do their job. So very simply, you have James Bradbury, Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, Xavier McKinney, and Dory Jackson. Darnay Holmes, these are all members of what will be a very talented secondary for the Giants. who's going to step up in training camp? Who do you see taking a bigger role once this is all said and done?
I think the guy that you have to see shine is Adoree Jackson, just because we got to make sure he's healthy, right? The only question surrounding him is he the same guy that we think he was, or is it just the name that you still recognize, and can he still play that way? I think if he shows up and shows Patrick Graham and everybody else that he can play one-on-one and he can go with anybody, all of a sudden you got Bradbury, who proved that last year, and you got Adoree Jackson on the other side, and all those other guys, man, they just become ball hawks, and they become hard hitters. They get to play the run more because you can let guys out on an island. If you have two guys of that caliber play to that caliber, and you got a Peppers in the backfield running that team, and you got other guys. I mean, you saw the other day, Logan Ryan said, "I'm running through a wall for this coach." This is his second year in the system, and he's ready to say, "I'll do anything for this coach. I'll play anywhere. I'll play as hard as I have to." So they proved again last year, Rabbi, they're interchangeable parts, right? Logan Ryan.
Oh yeah, especially when you saw in that Seattle game, that is the best defensive performance by any team.
Put him anywhere you want him. You want to put him in the slot. You want to make him a safety. You want to make him a corner. You can make him a nickel guy. You can do anything you want with these guys, and they all want to play. They all want to know the system. They all want to know each other's jobs. They all want to play. And again, the way Patrick Graham does it, the way Joe Judge did it, they all did play. And I remember, Anthony, you asking me in the beginning of the year, when they need to find a second corner, and you were right. They did, and they went through a bunch of guys to try to get that spot. You got to remember, the guy they thought was going to be there was in jail down in Florida. So it's not like they didn't try. They had a plan going forward, but then what happened? They had to then play all these different guys, and they picked up guys on waivers, but everybody played, and everybody played fairly well at a certain point. They covered for each other, and again, I think it's a fantastic system that when you ask Patrick Graham, so what do you play? He goes, I don't know. What down is it? What distance is it? Who are we playing? What's the time of the game? What's the score? They don't play 3-4. They don't play 4-3. They play anything they need to play to put pressure on the offense. And you woke up a guy like Leonard Williams, right? You found Blake Martinez as a tackling machine. You got Peppers in the middle, in the back. Again, that building of leader up front, Leonard Williams. Leader in the middle, Blake Martinez. Leader in the back, Peppers. And, those guys just know how to help each other, teach each other. They want to play hard. They want to play together. This is a very, very tight-knit group. And to me, it's the most exciting part about this team this year, is this defense may take that next step to be that, some of the defenses we remember in the past. I certainly don't want to put a name on them or compare them to anybody specific, but you know what I'm saying. They're ready to take that step where they just walk out on the field like, you ain't getting nothing today, fellas, and that's it, and go from there. And it could be very, very exciting.
I'll be happy if they score. If all you ask me to do is, hey Daniel, just get me 2 touchdowns and we're all good.
Can you
have Kenny Galladay, just throw it to him twice.
Right.
Saquon, all you got to do is run for 75. You're good.
17 points is all you need. And getting back to Saquon, I'd love to see him I wrote to our old buddy Chris Delgado the other day. I was texting with him, and I said, boy, I'd love to see Saquon for 14 games. I think if we get him for 12, we're probably going to be lucky at this point. But if it's the last 12 and he's healthy, that's pretty good. And 12 out of 17, don't forget. So I think that I take that, and that's only going to help everybody out once he comes back. But I think they have enough to start without him if they have to. And then again, to get Tony involved and, let the guy be the guy for the first 4 or 5 weeks if you have to. And let somebody else run the ball. They've had plenty of success with that. Get that offensive line going. And the key to the whole thing with Saquon is, and Jay remembers this from week 1 last year, you have to be able to get a defense off from keying on Saquon. All Pittsburgh did in that opening game to win that game was they took Bud Dupree and they said, that's your man.
Yep.
I don't care where he goes, you're going after him.
Yep.
And that's all. And basically, you only beat us by a few points, if I remember correctly. It was a very, very close game. And Saquon did nothing. So if you can get guys like that and you say, okay, you want to put Dupree on him, where do you see the pass over your head to Tony, who's going to run 90 yards for a touchdown? So that's what they need to do in the offense, as far as you were talking before, Jay, about, how they're going to build things. You need to not have him be, it's so obvious, except on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, that's the only option they have, and that it's obvious what they're going to do. Again, because there's no pre-snap, there's 2 tight ends in the game, there's 1 wide receiver. You can't make it that obvious, and you have to be able to take the key off of him and beat him with other guys for a while, and then that'll open it up for his magic act that he does.
Yeah. Rabbi, we all know that Joe is not a big fan of Pac-12 players, and he has very much maligned those who come out of USC. But as a guy,
offensive player.
Okay, fine. As someone who watched Adoree Jackson at USC, if this guy is healthy, Joe, and that is the big key. If this guy is healthy, the addition of him alongside Bradbury, I can't tell you guys how huge this will be for the Giants if Adoree Jackson's healthy, because if he is, look out. The guy is a playmaker.
By the way, getting back to Joe's actual point on the running backs, I'm curious to see what Devontae Booker and Corey Clement do in the backup roles, because that's a decent duo that can actually, and you have Corey out there, he can catch 3rd down passes. So you have some depth in that running back position if you want to put Saquon Barkley on a pitch count.
Well, and also what they did, to give Gettleman another pat on the back that he doesn't need this offseason. He didn't just say, oh yeah, we have Saquon Barkley and we'll draft this kid. And they went out and built again through last year. They went out and got guys that have played in the league that already know how to be pros. Which they
should do.
Yeah, which you should always do. And again, it's tough to find enough space to do that with everybody, but they got guys that are still in a good part of their careers that still want to play hard. And again, it's all going to come down to, as we all know, it's still going to come down to the makeup of that offensive line. And it'll be very, very interesting in training camp to see if Will Hernandez returns to form after having COVID and being out and then coming back and losing his job. Is Matt Pert going to be the guy on the thing? Is Solder going to play every down, or is he going to move to right tackle and move Thomas back over to left? I don't know. And nobody knows. And that's the great thing about Joe Judge. You 5 guys are going to figure it out. And then there's going to be 10 of you that are going to figure it out. And we're going to put you in whenever we need to put you in. And, let's see how this goes. And again, everybody can play both ways. I think Hernandez and Solder are the 2 keys, though, because if Will Hernandez gets back to the guy that they drafted after being sick, and Solder comes back, again, after taking the year off, which he should have done for his family, let's see what he can contribute. And does he become more of a coach? Does he become more of a right tackle guy? Where do you use him, and how good is he now after a year off?
All right. Unfortunately, we must talk about the Jets, as it is contractually obligated, although they have a lot of interesting storylines as well. Yeah. So Joe will stay with us as a horrid season for the Jets, which somehow produced 2 wins, as former head coach Adam Gase, who is now an offensive coordinator for a high school team. Just think about that for a second. An offensive coordinator for a high school team.
And
anyway,
we should write down the name of that team and see if they get 2 wins this year.
I'm sure they'll get 2 wins, because this is what happens when you go down 3 levels. Anyway, Gase out the door. In the door comes former 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. And those 2 wins, it gave Jets fans, instead of the rookie QB that they wanted all season in Trevor Lawrence, it gave them the QB that they got in number 2 pick, Zach Wilson. Will Wilson be comparable to Lawrence, or will Wilson just be the wish version of Trevor Lawrence? We are about to find out. The Zach Wilson experience is about to start, and oh yeah, we do mention Sam Darnold in this show because week 1 is against his former Jets quarterback, Sam Darnold in Carolina. All right, Jay, start us off as we'll talk Jets now.
Well, you can't, as you said, Rabbi, you can't start this segment without talking about Zach Wilson. And to me, that by extension, that also means talking about Mike LaFleur and the offense he's bringing, which is Kyle Shanahan's 49ers offense. Talked about this in our Jets postmortem back in January. It's a very quarterback-friendly scheme because of how it connects the run game to play action pass, keep the quarterback out of drop back situations. It also schemes receivers open, which gives the quarterback good throwing window, has your quarterback throwing to windows and not players, makes the progression simpler. Any quarterback would benefit from, especially a rookie. But the quarterback position in this offense also requires a guy with enough athleticism to operate outside the pocket, throw accurately on the move, as effectively as he does in drop back situations. Can he stand in against pressure and be able to deliver the ball on time, pushing it downfield while avoiding turnovers? Zach Wilson checks all the boxes. That's why Joe Douglas drafted him. Accurate from the pocket, creates in chaos just as equally well in chaos, can throw from different arm angles, moving in any direction, and can get it there despite being off platform. And despite the fact that he was known as a gunslinger at BYU, he protects the football, only 3 picks last year. And because LaFleur feels this way about Wilson, threw a ton at him at minicamp. Kid took every rep with the first team offense, and at no point did LaFleur or anybody on the defensive side of the ball take it easy on him. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion, guys, that he's going to be starting week 1. So LaFleur and the team is doing everything they can to prepare him for what he's going to see. So far through OTAs and minicamp, he looks comfortable in the offense. He's been accurate, aggressive. He's been in control. Some hiccups, as you would expect, but he never looked like an out-of-place rookie. Key thing for me was that he made the right calls most of the time in the unscripted periods in minicamp. Unscripted periods, as Joe knows, is where neither the offense nor the defense knows the other's call. All the quarterback has to go off of is what he hears in the headset from his offensive coordinator, and he has to make the right calls to get everybody aligned. Creates game-like situation, and that can be challenging for a rookie. Even Wilson, some of those hiccups happened in these type of sessions. Kid never had a meltdown, which is always encouraging. Showed the ability to make adjustments based on what he saw from the defense. They sat on his short routes without even any prompting. He went deep. Also showed the ability to make changes to his own game. There were some red zone sessions where he felt his 5-step drop was too slow. We all know the play happens faster in the red zone. Timing between a quarterback and his receivers has to be spot on, bang, bang, or else the play is going to go sideways without any feedback or prompting from it, which showed the innate feel for the game. That is something that the Jets scouting report had on him as a positive. Joe, there's a lot of optimism at one Jets drive about the quarterback position than there's been in a while. Yes, I know the bar is low. What are you going to be looking for out of Wilson during camp and as the preseason game?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to say that the bar is low, Jay. I was going to say there's always optimism at one Jets drive every 4 years when the new savior. And the new guy.
It's like the Olympics, by the way. It's just a cycle and a cycle and a cycle.
Rex Ryan, everybody, we're going to win everything. Mark Sanchez is going to be the savior. The next guy is going to be the savior. Everybody else. I just hope they don't put too much pressure on this kid. I think he's good. I think it was a good pick. I think there's 2 things you bring up there that scare me a little bit is, it's a lot easier to throw to windows than it is to throw to people. But if the 3 guys that they have on the roster now who are actually wide receivers don't know where those windows are or don't know how to open them or know how to do anything, you still have to have somebody on the other side of the other end to catch the ball. And they really have done a poor job in the last few years. What scares me about this team, and again, I think Salah was a great pick. I don't like coordinators from one side or the other. I really would like to see a head coach, but I like him as a person. I think, again, it's his first training camp. We don't know what he's really going to be like. We see him out there. We know he's kind of a tough guy. He's got that look about him. He's a defensive coordinator. Great. But I don't know how he's going to run practice. I don't know if he knows how he's going to run practice. So you're going to have to see all this stuff develop. The fact that there is no backup quarterback on this team, that has played more than Jay has in the NFL is a little scary because, again, what happens to rookies, Jay? They get hurt. They make mistakes.
Or
They
they're
have bad days.
ineffective.
You throw 5 interceptions. I know that's a normal day for Sam Darnold, but I think what happens is without any kind of presence, again, what did we just talk about in the last segment? Without anybody teaching him how to be a professional quarterback, there's no one there. And you can't say, oh, he's got coaches. Well, 21-year-old kids don't relate to their coaches like they would a 27-year-old, 28-year-old quarterback who's been in the league for 6 years and has won 2 playoff games or whatever it is. Whoever you brought in, and being completely serious, even if you brought in a Mark Sanchez type, a guy who had already gone through the system and is on the other side of his career, even having Flacco there would have been better than nobody, than having absolutely nobody. I mean, you read the 2 guys' names. I mean, Mullins is there, but he's hurt, and I'm not sure he's going to be any good from the guy from San Francisco. So there's a reason why he's on the Jets now and not back in, not starting in San Francisco. So I think that he's going to be just fine. I think he's got the look for New York. He seems to have that attitude. You saw him at the Islander games. He looks like he's about 12 years old, but he's getting into being around the city. He's getting into the whole thing. And I don't think it's going to be too big for him, even though he's from a small town. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming for him. Jet fans will make it overwhelming at times because, again, you're the reason we all love football because our new guy is here. And, again, the new guy was only here 3 years ago. That everyone was laughing at the Giants for not taking him and taking Saquon Barkley. And now the guy's not even on the team. So don't let that stuff get to him. Hopefully they keep him insulated from that. I like Joe Douglas. I think he's smart enough to build around him and not try to make it that this is the only year you're going to play here. Don't put that pressure on him that, oh, what do you mean you can't win 10 games? Look at what you have. You have no defense. You have no wide receivers. Your offensive line is in flux, although they got some good guys on the outside that should help. What's Mosley going to be when he comes back? You traded one defensive back that was fantastic, who was an all-star in this league, to Seattle last year. And then the other guy that you kept, that you franchise tag, you're pissing him off now. Now you challenge him off that he may not want to play. And you're like, well, who are you going to play? You got to play somebody. You can't start from scratch. So if Mosley comes back and doesn't stay healthy and the other kid in the back end doesn't want to play, who do you have? You got Quinnen Williams, fantastic. But you've let over the last 4 or 5 years, Anthony will probably know this number better than me. You've let guys walk away from that team that have been great, and they're all playing and they're all starring for other teams. The guys are on Cleveland, guys are on Tampa, guys are on the Giants. You've had a great defense at times, and you let all those guys leave because they want to be in the building. So hopefully they treat it as if they're starting from scratch. The problem with Jets ownership and the problem with Jets fans is it's never we're starting from scratch. Let's see what we can build here. It's always, oh my God, look who we got. We're going to the Super Bowl. And of course, they'll be on ESPN the first night. They're opening against Carolina. They're going to make a big deal. I hope Darnold torches them and just sets the place on fire so that they can say, look, calm down, guys. We're not there yet. And that's the Jets. That's the difference between Giants and Jets is you can realize when you're in a rebuilding year, when you're not there, when you don't have the talent to get past to a certain point. If you're a Jet fan, you're Rex Ryan all the time. And, we're the best thing in the world.
Of course, that's the way that they are all the time. It's just a system. I'm going to go on a serious note for a second and mention it's not going to be really a big help for, I know Zach Wilson learned a lot from Greg Knapp over the offseason, and unfortunately he suffered bad injuries in a bicycle riding accident over the weekend in California. And on the day of the taping of this show, or live, you see it tonight, this Thursday, he passed away about 3-4 hours ago. We extend our condolences to the Knapp family. It's very sad losing someone that young at 58. He's been in the NFL for over 25 years as an assistant. And he did a lot of teaching of Zach Wilson this offseason, just got hired to be on that staff from new coach Robert Saleh. Now, on a different point, Joe just basically said, I want Sam Darnold to torch somebody. We've now officially come full circle as now Joe is rooting for you.
It's possible that it happened.
No, I was just saying you were hoping, which means you're rooting for a Pac-12 offensive player. And by the way, Devontae Booker is from Utah, so you're rooting for two of them. All right, we talked about We talked about that backup quarterback position in Anthony, and that leads to your question.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm Zach Wilson. I see your advice to Chad Pennington and Phil Sims, two guys who won in New York but were constant professionals at the same time. So that's number one that I think he should do. Mm-hmm. But looking at the quarterback situation, they have Mike White and James Morgan on the depth chart at quarterback, and we have more total snaps in the National Football League than all three Jet quarterbacks combined.
No, we're tied. What are you talking about that we have more quarterback? We're tied. We're all at 0.
No. I have more snaps than both of you just by the virtue of having played the position.
No, he said the NFL. He said the NFL. You did not play in the NFL, Jay.
No.
Hey, all-time Matt and King, ladies and gentlemen. But that
doesn't mean anything. Keep going.
Besides the point, Joe, who do you see possibly being the number 2 quarterback? And is it important for the Jets to go out and sign a veteran QB just out of reassurance when you know you're going to have a rookie quarterback making his first NFL start in about 6 weeks from now?
Yeah, and I think what I said before about trusting Joe Douglas is, and now that this happened with Greg Knapp too, I think it becomes even more imperative they find somebody who knows that system to come in, and just, whoever the new coach is should bring somebody with them. And again, there's plenty of guys out there that are going to be fighting for jobs this year. There's going to be somebody that doesn't get the job in New Orleans. There's going to be somebody that doesn't get the job in, wherever, in Indianapolis. There's going to be somebody who doesn't get the job in a lot of these places that are going to be freed up. And it may be one of those late camp trades, or, the guy's going to get cut anyway type of thing. They're going to release somebody. You just never know where that other guy comes from. But I trust him that he's got some sort of plan. But I think what happened today threw a wrench into that whole plan, and he's going to need to get somebody a little bit quicker. And I think the guy that's walking in the door is going to want to have somebody who can just, and Jay, you can speak to this a little bit, somebody who can just say the words and the guy knows what to do. He's not starting from, so that means you stand here and you take 3 steps and then you turn to your left, and you can't do that from day one with a new guy and now a new coach. You need somebody to just show it to him. Even if he's not that athletic, even if he doesn't have the same arm, whatever it is. Look at the backup quarterbacks the Giants had during their Super Bowl runs, right? You didn't have guys who you'd ever want to play. You had David Carr, who was fine, and you had a couple other guys. But again, he wasn't Eli. But all you had to say was Y36, blue 14 on 7, and he knew what to do. So that's what you're looking for, is somebody that can just stand there and show him what to do just from hearing the words. You don't want to be teaching 3 guys how to run a play. That's just a waste of time. And Jay, you and I know from years past, there used to be just the one guy that got to ask questions and talk in the quarterback room.
Yeah.
Well, now you got 3 guys that don't even know how to ask a question because they don't know anything. So it's going to be very difficult without getting somebody that has at least been in the league for 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, and there's plenty of guys who are unsigned, who are, fall into the heading of veteran quarterbacks. But I mean, as you said, Joe, it's one thing to bring in, you bring in a, say a younger veteran who, you're not going to bring in a young guy because you don't want to give the impression that you're bringing in somebody who might be able to compete for that starting job. You're looking at a guy who has 10 years in the league, and his biggest skill is his football IQ, not this.
Yeah, no, exactly what the Giants did with David Carr when they brought him in, that he was already 10 years in. He knew he wasn't going to supplant Eli, but he was a perfect backup for him. That's that type of guy. I don't know who that guy is in this year. You know, because even Kurt Warner was the wrong guy in New York when Eli first came.
Yeah, he was.
Because he wanted to compete. He still wanted to play. So.
Nick Foles is available, by the way.
And Jason Garrett.
By the way,
Nick
Foles is available, and he's the name that gets thrown out because to a lot of people, he is the backup quarterback. You know, he's considered to be the best relief pitcher in the game, if you will, up there with a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick when he comes off the bench. But Foles, I don't know how much experience Foles has in this offense where he can seamlessly fit in. And I don't know. Foles still believes he's a starter in this league, so I don't know if he's the right guy.
He's not even the backup on the team that he's currently on. If you believe he's the starter,
he's still young enough to want to be out there and compete and be the guy.
That's the thing. Yeah, but that's not the guy you want. You're looking for someone who knows who they are and knows they're being brought in to be a mentor to a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I'm just saying to you guys, he's not there.
They
don't grow on trees.
You know who the two guys are, though? The two guys are, and you can't get them away from one of them. You can't get away from, but the one name is Flacco, and the other name is Dalton.
Dalton's going to be a very interesting.
Dalton doesn't want to play. Yeah, Dalton didn't want to play. Dalton went to Dallas.
Dalton didn't want to play, but I still think Dalton's in the situation that Chicago wants it to be in to mentor a young quarterback. I don't know.
I said you won't be able to get him away from him, but those are the type of guys. It's the Flacco.
That's the type of guy you want. He's just not available.
I don't know who is. I don't know because you start to look at guys like Fitzpatrick, but he's going to start in Washington, I guess. Yep. You start looking at him. You start looking at Teddy Bridgewater's getting older, but he's going to have to play in Denver until Aaron Rodgers gets traded. Which is never going to happen. But
we'll talk about that in a second.
I don't know who that guy is. It is Fitzpatrick. You're absolutely right, Jay. That would be the perfect guy if he was the system guy, except Washington's doing exactly what Philly's doing and deciding to play without a quarterback. So
it'll be interesting to see. And Joe, I agree with you on this. If the person they bring in to be that quarterback coach type guy that Greg Knapp was going to be. But Knapp comes from the same system. That's the Shanahan system. If they bring in a guy who is also from that system, then you know for a fact they're going to try and find a backup quarterback who comes from that system and has experience in it. And there's enough guys from the Shanahan tree in offense, and we're talking about Mike here, not Kyle, because the offense originated with his father. There's enough guys throughout the league that come off the Shanahan offensive coaching tree that have had quarterbacks spend time in that type of a system that they should be able to find a guy who can step into that role and be the bridge between a rookie quarterback and a quarterback coach. Yep. That guy, who's in that spot to be the mentor, to be the sage, wise veteran, to teach this kid, it'll be interesting to see who, if anyone, who's familiar with that system becomes, stays a free agent late into camp, gets cut from another team. And I got to agree with you. I think Douglas is going to be on the lookout for a guy like that. He doesn't have to rush now because if you get a guy like that late in camp, he already knows the system. It's not like he needs to be there tomorrow.
And that's the whole point.
There before the last preseason game,
But you do have to. Not only system-wise, though, you have to do, the reason, a couple of reasons, but the reason Flacco had to leave Baltimore was you couldn't practice what Lamar Jackson does with Joe Flacco.
No.
So, you can't run two separate systems in practice. So whatever Zach Wilson is or whatever they expect him to become, you got to find somebody that does what he does.
Yeah.
Whether it's not running or throwing on the run, or whatever it is, you can't. That's why the Kansas City Chiefs have Shermer's kid as their backup because he can run around. He can certainly he's got a strong arm. It doesn't matter if he can actually complete any passes. It doesn't matter if he can actually complete the passes, Rabbi.
No, it's just a matter you mentioned Pat Shermer twice in one show. I almost want to kick you out for that.
He's a very good NFL coach, like most of these guys.
But because we have spent the most time ever talking about backup quarterbacks that any show has ever done. I want to get to the defense for a second.
All right. Go ahead.
Robert Saleh, much different coach as the Jets have had before on the defensive end. He's no Greg Williams, but God, who is a Greg Williams? But Saleh brings in a completely different style to this team. What are you looking for as the team changes defensive coordinators? I know you're not a big fan of the defensive coordinator.
No. He has to instill that same. He has to instill that same toughness, that same character that they had in San Francisco. The idea of the swagger, of turning teams over, of being a tough group, of playing together. He just doesn't have the players. So it'll be very interesting to see. Again, is he patient about it? Or is he going to force guys into spots that they shouldn't be in and expose them and make them even worse? You know, do you call all out blitzes when you don't have cornerbacks? You know, again, what is going, the difference is as a coach, what does he have to change about his system because he doesn't have the players? And that's the biggest deal. You can't just walk in here like Williams did, like Rex Ryan did, and say, this is what we do. You know, you guys have to, it's your job to execute it. Well, it is, but if they can't, you can't put them in that position over and over and lose games left and right and have these guys get roasted in the paper all day long because it's going to be on you. So it'll be interesting to see how he can mold the team to what he wants them to be, but he doesn't have players. He just doesn't have, it's sad to say, and I'm not picking on him by any means. They've let a lot of guys walk away. And I don't know what CJ Mosley is going to be 2 years after an injury. I have no idea if he's going to be half the speed or full speed or whatever. I don't know what Quentin Williams is going to be this second year.
Yeah, second, third year.
Only in second year. Who knows what he's going to, you know, people may look at tape on him and go, oh, that's easy to block. I can figure that out. You know, how is he going to take that step forward and become a Leonard Williams type guy? How is anybody? If you don't have Mosley, you don't have any linebackers. You don't have nobody to play defense in the back. You have no corners. I went through the depth chart today. I didn't know any of the names except for Williams and Mawe. I don't know anybody else on the whole team. So I just think it's going to be a challenge for him that I'm sure he's up for. I'm sure he's going to work them hard. I'm sure they're never going to give up. I'm sure they're going to do all the right things. I really believe he's going to get that out of them. But as we've seen in a lot of different versions of this team and a lot of other teams, you can't force that square peg into a round hole. If they can't do it, if he's just too slow as a cornerback, he's too slow. You don't make it, nobody gets faster. And, you know, you can get smarter and you can figure things out and some schemes can help. But if you only got one guy who can rush the passer, it's hard to scheme against anybody because they're going to figure that one out pretty quick. And that's, right. You know, that's what I look for him to put the work in and be a tough team.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see this Jets season. And if they're a 2-win team again, be a shock. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to keep you on for one more segment, Joe, because we're going to talk about quarterbacks. Yes, we love the defenses, but they're not the money position in the NFL. The quarterback is the money position in the NFL. All right. There is a ton of different storylines that we need to talk about. Spoiler alert, Aaron Rodgers will be one of them. I'm sorry, Joe. A ton of camps have a quarterback position spot that's really interesting, whether it be a new guy coming in, a quarterback battle, a quarterback storyline. Joe, what are you looking for? What quarterback training camp are you focused most on?
Well, you know, we had this discussion. I'm just pulling up the depth chart here. We had this discussion the end of last year, and we talked about what do you do in Philadelphia? You have a coach who won a Super Bowl with a quarterback that won a Super Bowl. Okay, you replaced the quarterback had already been replaced, but then he came back because that guy got hurt. So he came back and won a Super Bowl. And then you tossed that guy away. You said, oh, we don't want him. We want the young guy who throws interceptions. We don't want the guy that won the Super Bowl.
And who made $102 million, by the way, which is probably more important than the interceptions.
Exactly. And then the head coach self-implodes does whatever he does to last year at week 17 that not only lost all his players, but kind of guaranteed himself getting fired within the week from his owner from what he did. And so now you're stuck. Now you're in a spot where I think the only thing I think the owner saved the team because the Kelseys and the other guys in the offensive line who were so upset at the head coach for doing what he did in the last week of the season, now he's gone. So he got rid of the coach. So that's fine. So now Kelsey can come back and say, I was only upset at Pedersen and everybody's happy and give me more money and everybody will be thrilled. But you've gotten rid of both your other quarterbacks and now you have Jalen Hurts. And you don't have Jalen Hurts with any competition. You have Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco. And that's it. And you don't have anybody else to compete for a quarterback job that, again, you didn't prove that this guy, you didn't prove anything. If you had left him in the last game of the season and seen if he could have won that game, you would have proven to him that he could play. But you pulled him out of the game. So now the guy is standing there going, well, so what's going on here? Am I the starting quarterback? Am I not? Can I do this job? Can I not do it? Does anybody believe in me? Who knows? So, and they have no, they got the number 1 pick. Who again, Jay? What's going to happen to the number 1 pick? He's going to get hurt. He'll probably get hurt in training camp. He's not going to be what he was at Alabama right away, because other people have televisions too that play in the NFL and they saw what he can do. So they're going to watch him on tape and they're going to figure things out. And again, you don't have an offensive line that's very good. You don't have any wide receivers that are that good. You don't have many running backs that are any good. They are in a complete rebuild mold in Philadelphia. They have 3 first-round draft picks next year. And if they're smart, they'll make sure one of them is the number 1 pick because then they can do whatever they want. Because then if Jalen Hurts is the answer, then you trade that pick and you get 2 more and you wind up with 5 number 1 picks and you go to town. So I'm going to watch that just to see if there is any competition. I'm going to see how he reacts to being the guy and see how the team reacts to him being the guy. Are they going to be impressed with that? Are they going to work for him? Or are they going to do what they did last year at the end of in the last game where they kind of let everybody run past them and sack them and say, you figure it out, big guy. You're all of a sudden you're the starter and you're going to get paid all this money. You go figure it out. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure. I like Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure there's a system there for him to work into. Again, he doesn't have enough weapons. He's got the tight end if the guy stays, which I think they'll talk him into staying, but that's all he's got. And he can run here and there. But again, if you only got one guy to go to, you're not going to be able to run that much either because they're coming after you. So I think he's in a very, very bad spot. I think they should just admit it's a rebuilding year. Get this brand new coach who is a Joe Judge clone. Get him in there. Let him run a training camp. Get the team into some sort of feeling about being tough and being gritty and playing 60 minutes, which you showed your team at the end of last year. You don't have to play 60 minutes. We'll just play 45 and then we'll go sit down and we'll let everybody else play. So you need a lot of rebuilding in that whole group. Now, the fans, from what I heard, still love Doug Pedersen. But here's a guy with a statue of himself outside a stadium, and he's not welcome inside the stadium by the ownership. So very strange. Very, very strange times. I think obviously as a Giant fan, it'll be interesting to see how they regroup and what they grow up into. I think as you look at the division, you put them at the bottom. You put Washington's defense as a real unit. I have to see what Dak Prescott is coming back from an injury because they're still the better team out there of those other 2 teams. But they have some holes there too. They've shored up their defense a little bit and they have great wide receivers, which will help. So if Prescott is any good at all, they should be able to score some points because they did with Dalton. But I still think it's us at the top with Dallas. But Washington's defense definitely is that wild card to throw in there because they can win games on their own, even with no quarterback.
And Joe Fitzpatrick, granted, the guy
6 straight games, 6 lousy games.
He can go between Fitzmagic and Fitztragic in one single throw. But even with all of that, he's still a huge upgrade at that position for that team. So you put that together with that defense and the other skill position players they have. And, I think there's going to be a really tough three-way fight for that division between the Giants, Washington and Dallas.
I think you're right about also the fact that who the starting quarterback is. They played Haskins because Alex Smith couldn't play. And then you played the other guy who then got hurt, and then Alex had to come back. And then so you had that mishmash and the whole thing in the playoffs. And, that guy was he was okay for one night, for half a night. He was good. And like you said, Fitzpatrick, you do know what you're going to get. You're going to get 6 good games, really good games. You're going to get 6 horrific games. And the other 5 are the toss-up.
You just have to pick the correct game. That's
is it
how
going
it works.
to be the first half or the second half that he screws up of those other 5 games? And like you said, he's going to win you games at the end of the day. He's going to throw some miraculous pass. He's going to run. He's going to do something because that's the type of guy he is.
Yep.
He's a winner at heart, and he's always will be a winner. And he hope he plays till he's 45. But
Amen.
he's Doug Flutie 2.0, except with a little bit better skills, but
and a lot taller.
Yeah, and a lot taller. But I think that's I think they realize in Washington what we're talking about. That defense is special, and if they can get over the fact that Landon Collins isn't as good as they thought he was, to pay him all that money, then they can kind of correct that and fix their secondary. They'll be okay, because he's another guy who only plays 5 or 6 games a year. He gets hurt all the time, so that will be an issue for them. But I think it'll be a fun year. But Philly's got nothing to build on, and they should just skip right forward to the 3 first-round draft picks and see what they can do.
Rabbi, it'll be interesting to see when we revisit the NFC East on our kickoff show at in a couple of 6 weeks from now. We'll see if Joe has any new nuggets to drop on us.
And y'all made fun of me for Chase Young last year. Anthony, go ahead with your team to watch at the quarterback spot.
Oh, wow. You know what? My team to watch is actually down in the bio, the New Orleans Saints. And the next time we see Drew Brees, he's going to be in a broadcast booth calling Notre Dame football games for NBC. So we're in year 1 of the post-Drew Brees era. And it comes down to 2 guys, Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Now, think about this. So Taysom Hill, quarterback, and when Brees was hurt last year, the Saints did go 3-1. They were 3-1, and that helped them actually maintain that division lead over Tampa Bay when they started to get hot late in the season, and eventually winning the NFC South division. Completed 73% of his passes for 928 yards and 4 touchdowns, but also he ran for 8 rushing touchdowns. Then you have Jameis Winston, who the previous season threw for 5,000 yards and threw for 33 touchdowns. However, he threw as many interceptions, which is why he was jettisoned out of Tampa Bay, and they gladly welcomed Tom Brady in open arms, and you all know how that turned out. But it will be interesting to see not just who Sean Payton goes with as far as starting quarterback, but how does he run his offense? I mean, with Drew Brees, it was kind of having another coach at the quarterback position as far as football IQ, X's and O's, but more importantly, making pre-snap adjustments, something that James Wilson did struggle with in his time in Tampa Bay, not being able to read pre-snap defenses all that well, which led to a lot of the mistakes you saw 2 seasons ago. Whereas Taysom Hill is not as gifted, as athletic as they can be. He's almost like Corner Stewart. He's a slash, pretty much. He can do it all, but he's not a proven passer, particularly when it's in the pocket. And what kind of offense is going to be run? I mean, because you saw the last few years in Drew Brees' career, you saw more of a rushing game with Alvin Kamara in the backfield and being featured more as an all-around back, being the receiver out of the backfield, getting screen passes and those little short dump balls. It's going to be interesting to see, does Sean Payton shrinks his normally wide open offense? And also another key is going to be Michael Thomas to help and his ankle. I mean, he missed a lot of games last season, wasn't 100%. And it's going to be important, regardless of who's quarterback in his team, if they have that number 1 wide receiver lined up to the outside. So it's going to be an interesting training camp and preseason. Obviously, you only get 3 games this year, but to see who is
like
going
they
to
need anything to begin with. That's the greatest thing about this.
Yeah,
new
but it's
schedule.
gonna
Get rid of a preseason game.
Yeah, but it's gonna be interesting to see with both guys getting equal snaps with the number one offense throughout these 3 games, who actually establishes himself as being that guy. Winston is more of the traditional passer that fits Sean Payton's traditional pass-first offense, whereas Taysom Hill is kind of more of the gimmicky style offense that Sean Payton loves to run. He does have to throw out a couple of trick plays. We saw that in the playoff game when Winston's lone pass in the season went for a touchdown in the playoff game. So,
against Tampa Bay, by the way, just to
no less. And we're gonna really see just how good of an offensive mind Sean Payton really is. We know he is for his time with the Giants, of course, as an offensive coordinator, and as a head coach throughout the years with Drew Brees. But Brees' football IQ is no longer in the film room, so it's gonna be a pretty, like I said, interesting thing to watch down in New Orleans.
All right, let's talk about the Steelers, and let's take another 10 minutes out of the show, Jay. Let's talk about Ben Roethlisberger at the helm again.
Oh, it's more than just that. There's plenty of burning questions as the defending AFC North champs open camp. New offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, last year's quarterback coach, replaces Randy Fichtner. And with that, a new offensive scheme that will have more snaps under center, more play action, more pre-snap motion, more jet sweep action, and more power running than throwing short and running long. How quarterback Ben Roethlisberger acclimates to this new offense is the burning question of Steelers camp. So far, both Ben and Canada are saying all the right things about the new scheme. Ben's excited about it, calling it a fun new challenge. And Canada is saying, quote, we're going to do what Ben wants to do and how Ben wants to do it. Canada's a big believer in using what works against a particular opponent, but keeping the core concepts of pre-snap motion, using tempo, and creating matchup advantages as the underlying scheme of the offense. Then there's how first-round pick and new running back number 1, Najee Harris, will be utilized in this new offense. Steelers drafted him to improve a running game that was dead last in the NFL last season in yards per game at 84.4 and yards per carry at 3.6. Will just having, arguably the best running back coming out of college be enough? How will Canada use him in the passing game? This will also be a burning question of Steelers camp. There's how will the reshuffled offensive line adapt to Canada's new offense, which each position will have a different player than there was last year at those slots. Can Chuck Okorafor be an improvement at left tackle over Al Villanueva, who the Steelers let go in free agency to the Ravens? Okafor was the right tackle last year. Can Zach Banner be the answer at right tackle, taken over from Chuck's? Trey Turner takes over at right guard for David DeCastro, who was let go due to an injury. Will rookie Kendrick Green win the starting center job? Where do Kevin Dotson, B.J. Finney, and rookie Dan Moore fit in? Yet another burning question of Steelers camp. Then there's the burning questions on how things will shake out on the defensive side of the ball. Is inside linebacker Devin Bush fully healthy? Is Robert Spillane locked in as his partner? Is Alex Highsmith ready to be the new Bud Dupree and take advantage of all the pass rushing chances he'll get as teams continue to slide protections to try and stop TJ Watt? Now, the Steelers' defense is light at both linebacker slots, inside and outside. They signed former Charger pass rusher Melvin Ingram to a 1-year deal this week, coming off a down year in 2020, 0 sacks. But in his previous 4 seasons, where he played a full 16-game slate, averaged 9 sacks a year, so past his prologue, and he's healthy, he should give their pass rush a boost, but I still think they need to add more depth as training camp progresses and cuts start being made. Also here, who replaces Steven Nelson at cornerback? Who replaces Mike Hilton in the slot? Steelers are banking on Cam Sutton replacing Nelson, but how often will he have to slide inside, leaving the outside cornerback slot open? Antoine Brooks looked good in OTAs and minicamp, but will he win the job? James Pierre, who looked good in the spring, and Justin Lane, who did not, will also be given a chance. Like I said, guys, a lot of burning questions for the defending AFC North champs as camp opens.
All right. Let's talk about the quarterback position, because that's what the segment was to begin with. And I'm going to try to steer the train back on the tracks as we head towards the station. Aaron Rodgers has been the story this offseason since the day of the NFL draft when it was reported that he wanted to leave Green Bay. There has been a lot of drama. And now we finally get to the point of, will Aaron Rodgers report to camp on time? He is a very wealthy man. He wants to host Jeopardy. He wants to do a lot of things. He has mistrust in the Green Bay management and general management system. I think he still is good enough of a relationship with Matt LaFleur that that's not the reason why he wants to leave. It doesn't help that you didn't allow him to go for it on 4th down last year, but I digress. I don't think this is the reason why Aaron Rodgers is where he is. Yes, I think the Jordan Love move hurt his chances to be in this organization for a long time, and I thought Green Bay thought they saw a chance to see a quarterback on the decline. But with an MVP year, I think Aaron Rodgers, the world is his oyster. He can hold out of camp, but Green Bay played their cards right. He's not leaving Green Bay. He is not going to Denver. I know you were, I hope you were choking, Joe. I think you were at the end of that. And the question is how much does Aaron Rodgers want to lose? Is he willing to pull Le'Veon Bell, and sit out the season and try to test his might again next year? It didn't work for Le'Veon Bell. Spoiler alert. He doesn't have a job from what I notice right now in the NFL.
Nope, he does not.
Or does he want to take the season, build his rapport, be a good teammate, and try to lead Green Bay to a Super Bowl? Because this is not a division that's too hard to win right now. Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit, 2 teams are rebuilding and 1 team has Kirk Cousins. I think even if you started Jordan Love, you could win this division. Very simple. I think the ceiling for Green Bay is whenever Aaron Rodgers reports to camp.
I have some news from Green Bay. So because I do know the beat reporter there very well. And the thought process is, at this point, Aaron Rodgers is too close to his teammates, too close to the coach, that he's not going to ruin their lives by sitting out a season and giving up all the money and stuff. He is upset at one person, and that is it. And he is going to make himself out, win another MVP, get him back to the NFC Championship game, hopefully get him to a Super Bowl, and make it about that guy that didn't trust me, that didn't want me back, and he'll be a bigger hero than he is now. So he's going, like you said, Rabbi, he's going to take a few weeks off, just like Strahan did, just like a couple other guys did. You know, he'll show up for a week, second preseason game. They'll let him play Love and have Love look terrible in the preseason game, and then he'll show up, and everybody will be all over Aaron, and everybody will be happy. So
I feel bad for Jordan Love in this whole situation, because if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up until, and someone said perfectly, Aaron Rodgers can show up the morning of week 1 in New Orleans, and they're going to play him as starter because of what his ceiling is and what Jordan Love's ceiling is. I feel bad for Jordan Love as a QB, and this is going to probably ruin him. But this is a situation that everybody in the world is going to be looking to.
Yeah, and just if I could take 2 more minutes, I know you guys hate when I do this, but Jay,
yes, I do. No,
you and I have talked about this. You and I have talked about this for years. Part of the Jordan Love thing is the draft process. The guy that they picked in the second, by the way, they didn't only have 1 pick that year. You know, everybody acts like, oh, they didn't get him any weapons. Well, the guy they picked in the second round is a top running back who may be there for 10 years. But guess what? He didn't have a first-round grade on him. So they didn't want to overpay for him. So they picked the one guy on their board that they had a first-round grade on. Nobody's saying they didn't miss some other guys or whatever, you know, whatever is, it doesn't matter. The whole point is on value. They didn't value anybody else at that spot to pick on their board. They went and got, look, he's got the top wide receivers in the game. He's got great running backs. You know, unfortunately, his offensive line got hurt last year to really put him in. That's what put them in a bad spot. And if he runs for first down on that play, where instead of throwing it away or throwing it to Devontae Adams' back foot, nobody's talking about this because they're in the Super Bowl and everything's a whole different game. But again, this isn't about Jordan Love, and this isn't about them disrespecting him. And I think he's taken it the wrong way. And the people who watch ESPN all over themselves. Drafting is about draft value and your slot. They got some really good players in that draft, and they picked them where they should have been picked, not just to find him so they could go, oh, look what we got Aaron Rodgers. We got him a wide receiver. We got him a running back. There was no one there. And that's how it goes. Sorry. And I agree with you. Jordan Love's going to wind up playing somewhere else. But
just to be fair, and this is also something that's kind of not really been talked about, Aaron Rodgers has nothing against Jordan Love. Nothing against him.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't at all.
Doesn't. And that's the thing that, like, everybody's trying to make it out that, like, that Rodgers hates him. It has nothing to do with him. No. He has nothing against this kid. It is a matter of principle, at least in Rodgers' mind. And, I'm not going to try and pronounce this guy's last name, the GM of the Packers, because I don't want to step all over my tongue, but we all know who we're talking about, Brian G., if you will. And that's kind of the root of it. And it just makes you wonder how long Rodgers is going to try and make this point. How long he's going to die on this hill before he says, okay, I've made my point. Now I'll come into camp. Let's get to work, boys. And
I think it's very simple that, again, you wait till week 1 preseason, and if the offense looks awful, then who's the first guy at the podium? Devontae Adams is sitting there saying, man, if Aaron was here, we wouldn't have had this. That's what you need. And that's what he's going to cause. He's going to cause the team to say, we need Aaron back. And then he's going to walk in and be the hero. They've all talked to each other. They all know how it's going. They all know what's happening here. They don't blame him, but he's not going to leave those guys laying on the field for the first 8 weeks of the season because he's too close to those guys. He's too much of a team player. And like you said, he doesn't hate the coach. It's not the coach. No. He doesn't like this, this isn't Strahan. This isn't Tiki. It's not that they didn't like the coach at the time. Nope. It's the general manager that he doesn't like. And he's going to try to make, and again, they don't have an owner. It's difficult. You can't go over the guy's head and say, I'm not playing here unless you get rid of this clown because he's not.
Because the guy who is the de facto owner, that's the president, he's seen by a lot of people as either an empty suit or a really annoying, bad, toxic presence. So you're right. Rodgers really has nowhere to go with this other than where he's been going, which is on Jeopardy, to his own house, to his vacation house, and, to the,
golfing, to being an NBA champion, all of these things.
The Shailene Woodley, by the way, let's not leave that out.
Yeah. Enjoy your time off and come back and win us a championship.
That's exactly what going to be very interesting NFL season. I cannot wait. But as we leave training camps, we have to say adieu to Joe Tufaro. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good to see you, sir.
About the NFL locals and national, and I'm sure, Joe, we're going to be talking for the NFL. We'll
see you week 1.
Yep. All right, guys.
No, literally, we will see you week 1 because you'll be in New York. So
I'll be in New York, right? Okay. See you guys. All right,
Joe Tufaro, enjoy yourself tonight. That is Joe Tufaro, a very good writer for columns for Last Word on Sports, and someone we always enjoy on this show. All right, play the music because let's talk about the 2020 Olympics. Yes, the 2020 Olympics. Delayed for a year. It was delayed for a year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Their opening ceremonies are in just a few hours. I think it's like 7 or 8 or 9 hours, and it's going to be fun. Let's talk about some storylines, and let's talk about USA basketball because basketball is a year-round sport, ladies and gentlemen. USA basketball begins their quest for a 4th straight gold on Sunday morning against France, but the road to Tokyo has been filled with a ton of bumps. They lost as massive favorites, 38-point favorites against Nigeria, and they were 20-point favorites against Australia, lost that too. And now they've lost Bradley Beal, Kevin Love, Zach LaVine to COVID-19 positives. Beal and Love are done. LaVine might be. We'll talk about that in a second. However, this is the U.S. The talent is immense. What are you looking for? Let's start with Anthony as Coach Greg Popovich takes the reins of the Dream Team.
Yeah, the funniest thing, if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my tablet because my computer just completely went kaput in the middle of that last segment. So I'm looking at my tablet, like from my back my backup notes. I know, like this is me being cheap buying a Google Chrome, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so next time I'm gonna put the extra $100.
I guess that's a good promo for Google. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys.
It's an HP, so
all right.
Anyway, look, I'm worried about the chemistry on this team, and part of it is the makeup of the roster. You look at it like this. They're very heavy on scoring, but I watched that game against Nigeria, and yes, I ran into Damian Lillard in Vegas. I couldn't ask him this, but it was a lot of one-on-one. The offense was very stagnant. They don't really have a true point guard on this team, and maybe Drew Holiday, fresh off of winning an NBA championship, might be a good addition. I know, Jay's, obviously he's going to go into
talk about that in a second.
Yeah, in a second. But you look at the makeup of this team, and it's just like there's so many guys who are ball dominant and heavy on the scoring. They got Damian Lillard. He's a scorer. He's the point guard, but he's more of a guy. If you look at his traditional role and the Portland Trailblazers, he's the number one option as well. Kevin Durant is another one. Then you look at Devin Booker, who's going to be joining them also, fresh off the NBA Finals. Zach LaVine, who will be joining them coming off of COVID protocol, and Chris Middleton as well, and you also throwing Jason Tatum. A lot of wing players who can score, but there's really no true guys. Like I would have loved to see someone like maybe Trae Young, even LaMelo Ball, who can run the offense and make sure that the ball doesn't stick, particularly with one guy dribbling the shot clock down. And you know what I'm saying, international rules is a little different than the NBA rules. So you can take the ball off the cylinder for defensive rebound. But also another thing is too the lack of size. Like Bam Adebayo was really the only big on that team and during Draymond Green. And I know Greg Popovich like his bigs to be a little versatile and be able to play all five positions. But when you look at some of the other teams, like Spain, like Argentina, they have traditional bigs who can grab rebounds. And it's no coincidence that in the exhibition games, the USA basketball team was out-rebounded by an average of 7 per game. And they had because Kevin Love was not 100% with Drew, they went out and added JaVale McGee. Now, McGee is a veteran. I know people are kind of shaking their head and scratching a kind of a bit of a head scratcher, but he does add something that they're lacking right now, and that's defense, a shot blocker, and rebounding. I mean, look at the 2 games that they lost in the exhibition. Teams didn't have a problem scoring to get to the basket, not to mention with Nigeria. They're not going to shoot close to 60% from threes again, but it tells you that even the switching the bigs doesn't work well if the ball movement on the other team is so well that you can't rotate out to open shooters quick enough. So, like I said, I'm a little worried what Greg Popovich was actually looking for. I know a lot of guys toned down the invitation because of the try to get an NBA season and a very short offseason window as the league is going into a more traditional calendar year starting next season again. But there were young guys, and part of what Mike Krzyzewski was able to do with his run of Team USA was, yes, he had the star players, but he had the young guys as well that could kind of come off the bench and learn and maybe chip in off the bench to give the starters and the star players some rest minutes. I think I would have loved to have seen some of the younger, more traditional players. I mean, I would have loved to see Julius Randle, a stretch 4, who can maybe open up the offense a little bit.
Never made him an offer, which is ridiculous, by the way. He can provide a lot of things.
Like I said, there was a lot of issues with the basketball team as far as how the offense was too stagnant, not enough spacing to show for it, but also defensively, they just don't have the size right now, even with JaVale McGee. And it's a concern because right now, maybe they're out-talent everyone and still win gold, but if they don't win gold, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And just a quick mention, the women's team. I was at the WNBA All-Star game. There's about 7 or 8 players that played for Team WNBA that could have easily been on Team USA. So you can question the selections of both teams. I know Dawn Stanley's been under so on the fire a little bit for leaving off a couple of names in particular. So, like I said, I mean, we just watched the U.S. soccer team get knocked down women's team get knocked down a few pegs. So, I don't know. Like, it's going to be it's going to be interesting.
You can only find that great analysis of I don't know to end it. That's the best way to describe this UN's men's basketball team. It's just wrong place, wrong time. Hopefully the talent wins out gold. Jay, what are you looking for?
I'm looking at the potential impact of the additions of Booker, Holiday, and Middleton when they join the team. I'm not as concerned as everybody else at the struggles of the USA men's basketball team had during their exhibition season. Yeah, the lack of bigs is concerning, which in my opinion did not include the since departed Kevin Love because he wasn't playing like a big, even when he did get on the floor.
He's not even playing like an NBA player. Why would he act like a big?
The loss of Bradley Beal is also concerning, as is, Zach LaVine. Beal is done, as you guys said. LaVine, when is he going to come out of the health and safety protocols? But I mean, the real issues the team has been dealing with just might be remedied by these three players who are currently not on the team due to them having a previous commitment called the NBA Finals, which wrapped up Tuesday night. Devin Booker of the Suns, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton of the Bucks. They will be in Tokyo by this weekend at the latest, now that the Larry O'Brien Trophy has been awarded to Milwaukee, and their respective skill sets should give Team USA a big boost. Booker's ability to score off the bounce and in bunches, averaged a little over 28 per game for the Suns in the finals, will be sorely needed, especially with the loss of Bradley Beal. Middleton's ability as a bucket getter who can score at all three levels. He's a solid rebounder. He's a solid secondary playmaker. It'll give the team a dynamic that is currently missing from the offense. He also gives Team USA another player who thrives in the clutch and closing time situations. Holiday's abilities as a two-way player, averaged 16.7 points, 6.2 boards, 9.3 assists, and 2.2 steals for the Bucks in the playoffs. His ability, especially on the ball, is something Team USA desperately needs. He gives them a legit lead guard who can facilitate the offense, set up his teammates, score when needed, and most importantly, provide first-team All-NBA defense, locking down opposing point guards. I'm sorry, guys, but Ricky Rubio should not be lighting this team up for 23 points. Yeah, look, Kevin Durant can score on anyone, and he's a solid help defender. And Damian Lillard is, well, we all know what Dame time brings to the game. He's a scoring machine. Jason Tatum is an all-around talent. But Greg Popovich is going to need the depth on both sides of the ball. These three guys give it to him. The only thing these three don't help with is the glaring lack of size and physicality, that this team has, as evidenced by, as Anthony mentioned, they got out rebounded 3 of their 4 exhibition games, including the finale, where they beat Spain despite losing the battle of the boards 42-29. It doesn't help that Draymond Green may not be 100% at the start of the tournament. He was clutching his elbow during the fourth quarter against Spain. Another concern is that Spain had 25 free throws to the U.S.'s 13. Booker should help with that somewhat. With what the addition of Booker, Middleton, and Holiday will do is expand the margin Team USA has where it can lose the battle in the paint and still have a chance to win. That's the hope anyway. But this is the first, guys. 3 players going directly from the finals to the Olympics in 1 week. It just adds to the largest amount of uncertainty surrounding a USA men's basketball team that I've seen in a long time. I believe Pop when he says he has no idea who his 5 starters will be or how much, these 3 guys will be able to play against France. Hello, jet lag. And I'll take a twist on what Anthony said about we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and the problem is France is by far the best team that they're going to play in those qualifying rounds. I believe Iran and the Czech Republic are the other 2 teams, and that you can kind of have room for error and kind of tinker.
Hey, just remember,
with what
you only got to win 2 you only got to win 2 in group stage to advance. So there's that. You
can win 1 as long as you're one of the top 3rd place teams. That's the great thing about group stage. However, the Beal leaving the team because of COVID issues is a big deal because I don't know who the star of this team is, but I know that there are 3 huge scorers on this team. And as much as I like Devin Booker going from the NBA Finals where he shot poorly to going into international basketball where he's not an accurate enough shooter to get those points. Same, unfortunately, with Middleton. Definitely the same with Holiday. You're bringing him there for his defense. Let's be fair. I don't know outside of Lillard and Durant where you're getting scoring from. And that's one of my main concerns with this team. And when you lose Bradley Beal, you lose a star. And this team doesn't have chemistry and it doesn't really have stars. It's not somewhere where you could say, hey guys, we're down 6. You're the only person, or we're down 6. We need a bunch of threes. Lillard is the only guy who can bring that to you on this team, I feel like. And that's a problem. And then Zach LaVine, forget about Kevin Love. He's useless. He should be retired by now. I don't know why he was brought to Japan, just saying. Zach LaVine's going to be very interesting because he started games already. He started for Jason Tatum in one game, and then when Beal left, he also started the game. LaVine has actually probably been more of a I could do whatever you need me to do type player. He could be a role player. He could be the first or second guy off of the bench. He played 21 minutes in game 1, 24 in game 3, 22 in game 4. He is really going to be a huge factor in this entire campaign. And if he can't come back, you're missing another role player. As much as Johnson, the guy who got added from the Spurs to the team, the other player that who works under the Popovich system, it's not going to be easy to find the correct meshing to get themselves where they need to be. I see a lot of 2004 in this team, and that 2004 team won bronze. So I'm very interested to see how this ends up going for U.S. basketball. I don't think there's really a good floor that I could really predict right now.
Yeah. Also, another player they should have added, I felt, was Jared Allen. I mean, if you wanted size and opposed to
that size. I mean, Jared Allen kind of does bring a niche to the team, but there's just so many problems that this team has. They're going to have to win on talent, and they can, luckily. The 2020 games.
Yeah. Popovich is wishing Duncan was still, able to play.
Well, Popovich always wishes Duncan. That's another story for another time, which we might get to soon. Anyway, because I'm not sure what Pop can do with this team. Just saying. The 2020 games, yes, it's still called that. Deal with it. Always has had their share of athlete storylines. So we're going to focus on 3 athletes. And Jay, you're going to go first here because I accidentally skipped you for the last one to go first. Predominantly from the sports, we're going to mention stuff from the sports that are featured really in week 1 of these games, and that's gymnastics and sweeping. So Jay Kaplan, start us off with 2 GOATs, one future, one current in the swimming world.
Yeah. Which is the tougher pressure, guys? Adding to your own legacy or trying to live up to the legacy of someone else? Katie Ledecky falls into the first category. She comes to Tokyo looking to possibly add 5 more medals to her career haul. Everyone else is chasing her in the shadow that she's cast over women's swimming over the last few years. Caleb Dressel, on the other hand, falls into the second category as everyone has anointed him as the next Michael Phelps. No pressure, right? Ledecky is a 5-time Olympic gold medalist and the defending Olympic champion in the 200, 400, and 800 meter freestyle events. She also is the hands-down favorite to win the new 1,500 meter freestyle event, which is debuting in Tokyo this year. She's looking to repeat in the 800 meter freestyle. If she wins her 3rd consecutive gold in the event, and she again is the odds-on favorite, she will join Dawn Frazier in the 100 free and Christina Egersegzi, I hope I said that right, 200 meter backstroke as the only women to win the same event at 3 straight Olympic Games. Ledecky is also looking to accomplish something that no women and very few men have managed: win the 200 and the 1,500 on the same day. That'll be July 27th. The preliminary heats of both races will take place in the same session, as will the finals. In the history of the modern Olympics, only 5 men have won the 200 and the 1,500 meter freestyle, and never have both races taken place on the same session. That would make for some very impressive Olympic history, cement Ledecky's legacy, and make her the most decorated female Olympian of all time. Dressel comes to Tokyo as a 6-time world champion and the world record holder in the 100 meter butterfly, 100 meter individual medley, and the 50 meter freestyle. In Rio in 2016, Dressel was pretty much a bit player, winning 2 golds in relays, but nothing individual. Since then, he's won a record 8 medals, including 6 golds at the 2019 World Aquatics Championships. He also won every event he swum in the Olympic trials last month, solidifying his dominance in the sprint events, which has put him in the spotlight and placed Phelpsian expectations on him for these games. He's going to swim 3 individual events, the 50, 100-meter freestyle, and the 100-meter butterfly, and 4 relays, and is a gold medal favorite in all of his individual races. He could potentially leave Tokyo with 7 gold medals, which would be pretty damn Phelpsian. Either way, they're both the faces of the USA swim team, and they are the ones to watch in Tokyo.
Let's talk about from someone who's Phelpsian to someone who's Bilesian, because she is Simone Biles, Anthony.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, at the age of 24, this could be the swan song to arguably the greatest gymnast of all time. I mean, we to put a long story short, she could end this Olympic Games as probably the most decorative of all time as well. She's favored to win gold medals in 4 events in Tokyo, including the all-around, which is one of her favorite her strengths, the vault. And we know she has her own move with that, which has been literally she's the only one who can pull that off.
Yep.
But here's the thing: I mean, she could become the most gold-winning female Olympian in any sport in both the U.S. and the world. The U.S. Record is 8, the world record is 9. And Biles has currently 4 gold medals to her credit. So if she's able to win all 5 events, she will actually have the world record. But look at this. I mean, look at her. Give me just a second, because like I said, my laptop completely went batshit crazy on me. But look at her like this. She can be, Michael Phelps is the most decorative of all time with 28. As far as medals overall, he has 23 gold medals. And Biles can literally be among that where you add in all the world championships she's won. 25 medals, 19 of those which was gold. You think about this. The psychological edge that Biles have going into these competitions, where you put a little goat on the back of your leotard to kind of psych out your rivals and your opponents. It's almost like she's won the competition before she even steps onto the floor. And just like I said, we could be witnessing the swan song to probably not just one of the greatest athletes of all time, but probably the most dominant in her run. I mean, think about what she was able to do in 2016 in Rio. She was literally the standout star on a gymnastics team that still had Allie Raisman and Gabby Douglas, who was part of the 22 team that won gold medals. So, like I said, I think gymnastics is definitely going to be one of the highest rated events for NBC throughout the Olympics. And Simone Biles is definitely must-see TV.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Yeah, she's the focal point of a lot of Olympic promoting, and you're going to see her 22 hours later perform and win possible gold medals, unless you're watching.
By the way, you want to talk about golden smiles? Anyone see the viral video of the little baby smiling at the Simone Biles stand cutout in a grocery store? Yes, I mean, that's look. We haven't had a lot of great viral videos. Everything that's going on as far as politics, COVID, pandemic aside. It's nice to see something warm and cuddly every once in a while, and that was definitely a great clip to watch, even if it was a brief 30-second clip.
Okay. We're the source of viral videos right here.
Speechless. Yes.
So going from something warm and cuddly to the rabbi.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the worst transition ever. It's the worst transition ever. Anyway, Sam McCulloch is a male gymnast. We don't talk about male gymnasts a lot because they haven't had a lot of success in these games, but he's the first U.S. gymnast to compete in 3 Olympics since Blaine Wilson back in 2004 when the Olympics were in Athens. He's also the only gymnast on this team. I think Biles will be the same way with experience going into these Olympic Games. Brody Malone, Yul Muldaur, Shane Wiskus, and Alec Yoder make up the rest of the team. Brody is the current U.S. champion, took it from Sam, and after Sam dominated for, I think, 6-7 years. Sam has not won an Olympic medal just yet. And it's going to be something that I think is going to be a very interesting story. Again, we don't talk about men's gymnastics a lot because the women kind of outrate them, but a lot of people are going to be rooting for Sam in these Olympic Games. If he enters in all 6 competitions, he might have a chance to medal in all around. He could be a very good story. He can get a medal in high bar. That's definitely one of his strengths. But I just want to see a guy who has worked his ass off for the U.S. Olympic team since 2012. You just have to remember, this is a 10-year span for him pretty much with 3 Olympic Games. And even the extra year, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment, ages you. Like Simone Biles feels 2 to 3 years older than she would have if she competed last year. Same with Sam. So I think it's good to see someone for the old guys of gymnastics. I think it's weird to say old guys because that's like 26, 27, but it would be nice to see the rest of the team wants him to win a medal, whether it be gold, silver, or bronze. I think it's time that he does. All right, let's move on to our final segment, and let's actually get serious here and talk about the COVID-19 pandemic. Cases have gone up in the United States. 40% in 3 states altogether make up all of the cases right now. And they've never really rallied all over the world, especially in Japan. The country is in a state of emergency, went from having 50% capacity to these games, and now fans are not attending. And you can already see that when you see some of the soccer games that are currently airing, even before the opening ceremonies. The Emperor of Japan had grave concerns of the games, said there have been many positive tests at the Olympic Village right now. So COVID-19 is definitely not going away and will be a story these next 2 Olympic weeks. Jay, what are you looking for?
This is something, whether or not these games should actually go on is something that a lot of the Japanese people, especially in Tokyo, are not only asking, but have been protesting about. And several major corporate leaders, such as Panasonic, Toyota, Nippon Telephone and Telegraph, Fujitsu, and NEC have decided to distance themselves from the games. With a country that's reporting a 7-day average of 1,100 daily new COVID-19 cases, and that's up from an average around 390 daily cases a month ago, which forced the government to impose that state of emergency that Rabbi just mentioned in Tokyo. That's going to remain. It's going to remain in effect for the entirety of the Olympic Games. The only conclusion I can come to, guys, is that it would be too expensive. The reason they're going to go on is because it would be too expensive not to have the games go on. And then look at this. Then on Tuesday, a foreign athlete residing in the Olympic Village, plus 8 others attached to the game, tested positive, bringing the total number of games-related infections to 67, according to the Kyoto News, which has a lot of people wondering, and rightly so, if the safety measures in place in the Olympic Village in particular, and at the games overall, are good enough. If the bubble is broken, then the possibility of a cluster of infections in the Olympic Village, followed by interactions with Tokyo locals, that increases big time. Look, the Olympics are usually a losing financial situation for the host nation. All the investment in the run up to the games in terms of building venues and the village and all the other infrastructure projects go to waste afterwards. The cost of broadcasting the games are astronomical, as are the rates to advertise during the games. All of these things were pushed back a year, and if the games don't happen, the loss to Japan corporate partners, the ones across the globe that haven't distanced themselves, and the broadcast partners would be as astronomical financially as the loss of the chance to compete would be for the athletes, some of whom may never get another chance. And that's saying something, because if these games are to be canceled, guys, the IOC would have to pay NBC, the primary broadcast partner, in the neighborhood of $4 billion. That's billion with a B, guys, $4 billion. Look, we know that the games are going to go on, and hopefully they'll do so without the type of outbreaks that we saw wreak serious havoc, or with Rabbi, just for you, major havoc, with the 2020 baseball season. Look, I don't want to further deprive these athletes of their chances to compete and potentially medal. But when several polls show that the majority of the Japanese people favor postponing or even canceling the games, and 9 prefect governors publicly agree with that view, but the games are going on anyway, we know that it's all and only about the money. And doesn't that make for some backwards priorities when the world, and especially Japan, is still in the throes of a global pandemic? Just saying.
Yeah, You know what? I'm looking at my notes here. Like I said, I had to back them up. Those days alone, the total new cases in Japan was 1,979, which is the most since January 15th, when they had over 2,000 cases for that reported for that particular day. And you look at the Japanese vaccination rate. They had a slow rollout, which was actually slogging along. You know, considering it is an advanced city, advanced country, among the world powers as may be, but only 23% of Japan is fully vaccinated, and that is a concern. And the rate among cases to individuals that are 50 and even young individuals are rapidly rising. Look, the problem is under a lot of scrutiny right now for picking the Olympics over public health. I mean, the nation's been under a national emergency since really since last month. But like I said, we know why the Olympics are going to go forward. There's too much money involved, too much money going that will go by the wayside. They've already lost a year, had to postpone it because of the pandemic. And also the athletes has already lost a year after preparing for 4 years. So they've already lost in itself. But like I said, we're going to, we hope to not see what happened with baseball and the NFL to an extent. We had a couple of cluster cases among NFL teams that saw games being postponed for 10 to 11 days at a time. And we talked about the Steelers being one of those teams that saw their games postponed for that time earlier on in the show. Like I said, I do want to see not just the United States athletes, but all the athletes that are participating healthy, safe. The women's gymnastics team are not even staying in the Olympic Village. They're actually staying in a hotel, in part because they felt that they could control the environment around them a little better. And it's a great concern because part of the deal with going into that bubble was that athletes would be fully vaccinated. And we've seen this week a couple of athletes, Coco Gauff in particular, tested positive despite being vaccinated. And we've seen a new variant strain that's fucking happening here in the United States, and obviously it's making its presence felt in Japan. And I guess, like I said, I am really hoping that the IOC and the Olympic Village can avoid a huge cluster of cases. But we have to keep our fingers crossed. At some point, as much as I want to see the athletes compete, I want to see them do well, whether it's United States, regardless of it is. I want to see everyone, walk away from this Olympiad in one piece. And like I said, I'm keeping knock on wood that can actually happen.
You guys said it all, so I'll just say very simply, there's another reason why these games are going on. That's the athletes. Not every one of these events is professional athletes. I'm shocked as many tennis players are going to Japan that are. Even Novak Djokovic, who was one of the doubters of all of this, he's going to Tokyo after all of this. You said Coco Gauff is, even Naomi Osaka, because it's in Japan, is going to the Olympics. Listen, 22% of the population vaccinated. They hope to do what the NFL and MLB did, because you know what? As long as they get through it, that's all that matters to the IOC. I think the IOC, we give guff to how the NFL and how MLB and NBA really handled all of this COVID protocol and all this COVID stuff, when in reality, the IOC royally screwed the pooch on this one. I think they didn't really have a plan. I think they kept kicking the can down the road, and we're up to this point now, and this is where we are. They're going to have 1,000 people in the stadium for their opening ceremony. I know it's not about the pageantry, but it's going to be a fanless games, and that's the way it should be. But if the IOC just wanted to get this done, cut their losses, congratulations, you did just that. However, this is not the Olympics to me. It'll be fun.
No.
It'll be
Yeah.
interesting. I will watch some live stuff. I have rowing on the television right now. I don't know why. I just do. But this is what we're going to see as we go around normal lives next 2 weeks. And there's still a lot of sports around here too to keep us interested. And what we've noticed in the United States is the Olympics are a big draw, but COVID has deflated it a lot for me this year.
And here's the thing too is this is what I mentioned. It also kind of emphasizes just how well the NBA and the National Hockey League did last year involving that bubble. I mean, with the NHL, they had 2 bubble cities that they were able to test regularly, nonstop, and they literally were able to get through the postseason with 0 positive tests. And the NBA did a tremendous job at the Orlando bubble as well. And I think the IOC just didn't think this out completely as far as the Olympic Village, and maybe allowing for time for athletes to get there, maybe get tested regularly. If there's a positive test, allow them time to isolate. Maybe they can still participate. I just don't think they really thought this out completely. It just was more of, we just want to get this over, we want to get this done. And you're doing an Olympia in a public health crisis in a country that for the technology, and Japan has always been a country I wanted to visit, is lag behind as far as trying to get its citizens safe.
Yeah,
and
that's all the world,
and that's
though,
what
too, and we've
me
seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we've seen that too.
Here's the saddest part for me, guys, in terms of my empathy and my sympathy for the athletes, all the ones that are coming from all over the world that are congregating in Tokyo for these games. One of the things that that Olympic athletes get to do any other year, they get to go out once their event is done, or in between, practices or their events, they get to go out and explore a country that most of them probably have never visited before. They get to take in the culture and all of that. They won't really get to do that. So not only are they losing out on having fans and having all of the pageantry that goes along with being part of an Olympics, they won't get to have this, the side joy of being able to go out and explore the country. They're probably going to have to distance themselves from other athletes.
They are.
And that's also something, the thing of the Olympic Village, where these guys get to interact with other athletes, sometimes in their own sport, oftentimes in other sports. All of that socializing and cultural exploration that is part of an Olympian's, experience, they won't get to have that. And that, to me, is sad. And I feel for them that they won't get to get the true Olympic experience because of the situation in Tokyo at this time.
You're basically only allowed to leave your hotel for a 15-minute walk every single day, and then you have to go from your game back to the hotel or go back to the Olympic Village. This is the world we live in right now, but unfortunately we're going to see that a lot during these Olympic Games 2021/2020, whichever year it is. Anyway, that's our show. Make sure to join us next Thursday, as we will have the NBA draft show while most of the draft is still going on. I'm excited. The draft will be just an earshot from where Anthony is right now at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So go Bob Cade Cunningham before you get on to us next Thursday night, Anthony. Get Cade's autograph at like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something over there.
I don't know about Buffalo Wild Wings. I'll treat him to a dollar pizza from the pizza shop on
the contract he's going to sign. He should be treating you.
He should be treating you to at least Shake Shack. Anyway, social medias, facebook.com/onthesportslines for our live streams, youtube.com/onthesportslines if you want to see our extensive catalog. And Jay, I'll let you have the last one this week.
And, to look for the link to this show and some other interesting sports tidbits that we may drop from here and there time to time, you can follow us on Twitter at ONTH Sportslines. And
before we go, we'd like to thank our football expert, Joe Tufaro, for joining us again. Read his stuff for Last Word on Sports. For the other guys, Jay Kaplan and Anthony Strait, I'm Stephen Rabinowitz. Have a good night, people. Enjoy your weekends.
Good night, everyone.